Hello, I am Night Winter, if you don't know me. This is my podcast, Bows and Butchers. I am usually a video game streamer, but we're doing a podcast. So if you like true crime and you think I'm entertaining or funny or you just like my hard-hitting news, then make sure you subscribe. The story that we're going to get into today is the story of Natalee Holloway. Now, this case is from back in 2005. The reason why I would like to do it now is because more things have come out and more things have happened. Before I start, disclaimer, obviously it's a true crimes case, so like there's some bad stuff in here. There's murder, SA. One of the people, maybe more than one, is a minor. One of the possible culprits is the minor. I don't have as much information on them, I'm assuming because of this. There's also wire fraud and extortion. There are also drugs. Now, let's get into the case. Born October 21st of 1986 in Memphis, Tennessee, was Natalee Holloway. Her father, Dave, he was an insurance agent, and her mother was an education. She also had a younger brother named Matthew. She was the oldest of the two siblings. In 1993, her mother and father divorced. The kids ended up moving in with their mother. In the year 2000, Natalee's mom married a man named George Twitty. He goes by Jug for short. So we're going to call him Jug for the rest of the time. I don't think I'm going to be mentioning him too much, so just remember Jug is Natalee's stepfather. So they moved to Mountain Brook, Alabama. And they move into kind of like a rich neighborhood. Jug has money. They move into this rich neighborhood. Good for them. Good for them. And Natalee is said to be a very sweet person, very active in school. She was on the dance squad. She was very intelligent. She actually got accepted into the pre-med program at the University of Alabama. So, like, she's amazing. She's amazing. She was also part of the National Honor Society, and she got straight A's. So, like, pre-med makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense for sure. So, on May 24th of 2005, Natalee graduates high school. Now, at this school specifically, they do like graduation trips every year in Aruba, 5-day trips. And everyone in their class is invited, but it's not a school thing. Like the students and then parent chaperones will come. So they just let everyone at the school know, and the school is aware of it and supports it, but it's not through the school. So there ended up being 124 students that will be going on that trip and 7 chaperones. So Aruba, if you don't know what Aruba is or where Aruba is, it is an island off the coast of Venezuela, and their slogan is One Happy Island. I want to give a disclaimer. I'm laughing because it's called One Happy Island and then I'm going into this horror story. Those things are not normal here. I just would like to point that out. Aruba is actually considered a very safe place for tourists. The crime that generally happens when it comes to tourists is more so like pickpocketing, and if you leave like your purse out in the open unattended, someone will snatch it. That stuff happens everywhere, but it's a little easier in situations like that. I just wanted to add that like Aruba is generally considered like a very safe and reputable place. The chaperones also treated the students like they were adults. In Aruba, the drinking age, gambling age, all of that stuff was 18. So they were all able to do whatever they wanted, you know? Like, they were excited about that. Fair. So really all they did was check-ins. Once a day, they would do a check-in, make sure, you know, everyone's still here, everyone's doing well, no one's in the hospital, missing, whatever. They did that every day. That was pretty much all of the supervision that they had. That was it. And they were pretty excited about that. And like, what teenager wouldn't be, you know? This last fun hurrah, being treated like an adult, going out on your own, doing whatever you wanted. Yeah, that's amazing. I would have loved that. So the teens actually got so out of control that the Holiday Inn that they were staying at actually said that for years to come for this trip, they weren't allowed to stay there anymore. They got way too rowdy. They got way too rowdy. So they won't be staying there anymore for that trip. Her friends actually said she drank a lot. She drank a lot. She got pretty drunk. And she actually didn't show up for breakfast for 2 of the days because she stayed out so late drinking. Now, nothing against her or that. You only had 5 days there. Live them up. I don't think anyone was talking down on her. I'm not talking down on her. I don't think there was any slander about that. They're just like, didn't panic as much the second time she did it because they're like, oh, she probably went out. Blah, blah, blah. Well, she did. That's what happened. They were set to leave out May 30th, 2005. The night before this, the 29th, they wanted like one good last hurrah. So Natalee and her friends, they went out to a casino. There were pictures taken that night. Natalee was wearing a denim skirt. She had what we would call a halter top that was white, green, and blue on. And she was just having a good time. Then in walks Joran Vandersloot. I may be saying that wrong. I don't care. To be candid with you, I don't care. This man doesn't deserve his name to be said properly. He doesn't. He doesn't. Any hoosers. So he walks in. Him and Natalee meet. They start talking. They hit it off. They click just instant. So they're playing blackjack. They're drinking their drinky drinks. And they're having a good time. So Joran, a lot of the stuff that I found on his life was very conflicting, and I don't know if a lot of stuff was not put out in the open because he was underage at the time of all of this happening. I'm not sure. But his mother gave some conflicting information. She, on one hand, made it sound like he was amazing. There were no signs of mental illness or anything wrong, but then in other cases, she said he was very mentally ill and she wished that he would have gotten help for his issues. So it was very conflicting. But his mother did say in an interview, growing up, he was very sweet. He was good to his animals. He really loved his animals. He loved his grandmother. He liked spending time with her. He was just an overall really good kid. Now, once he starts to get older, still under the age of 17, he got a gambling problem. So I'm guessing maybe that's when his mom started noticing things going downhill and him needing to get help for mental illness. So, like I was saying, Natalee and Joran seemed to really like each other, hit it off, and they were having a great time. So then the group of friends, plus Joran and his friends, Deepak and Satish. Deepak is 21, Satish is 18. They were friends of Joran's. They lived and worked on the island. They knew the area. After they went to Carlos and Charlie's, after they were done there, it was about 1:30 in the morning. Natalee left with the 3 boys, Joran, Deepak, and Satish. Her friends saw her get into Deepak's silver Honda with the boys. And they, everyone did the rest of their night, like, last hurrah night while they're in Aruba before they have to come back to America. So everyone was having a good time and kind of going all out, which is fair. I get that, especially if you're about to go to med school. The next day, the students were kind of slowly gathering, a few people at a time, few more in the lobby, bringing all their luggage and everything, just getting ready to go to head out to the airport. As time went on, some people were later and later. They had been going hard drinking and partying the night before, so of course. They're gonna be tired. They are possibly hungover. I would probably, minutes before I needed to go, I would just throw all my stuff in, zip it up, and be like, let's go. But they noticed that Natalee did not come downstairs with her luggage. They didn't see her at all, but because she didn't show up for breakfast 2 of the days, they were like, she's just gonna be late like always. More time goes by, Still no Natalee. So they decide to go check her room. Sorry, I have Poppy, my kitty cat, her hair, all over my scrunchie. Any Hoosers, they go and look for her. They went to her room and they were like, she's not here. They were looking around and they were like, that's weird. Her luggage is exactly how she packed it last night, and her passport is still sitting on the table. That's very weird. So they were like, you know what? Like, we should probably let the chaperones know, and then we'll look around the whole hotel. So they let the chaperones know, and everyone started looking around the whole hotel. No Natalee. So then everyone started getting worried. They're like, she might actually be missing. Maybe she slept somewhere else. They don't know, but they're concerned. So one of the chaperones decides to call Natalee's mother and stepfather, Jug, and just let them know, like, hey, we can't find Natalee anywhere. They rented a private jet, and some of their friends came with, and they straight shot went there, got there as quickly as they could. So they went straight to the hotel first. That's the first thing they did. And they searched for Natalee too. They searched her room, they searched the hotel, and when they couldn't find her either, you know, they talked to the friends, they talked to the hotel, and they pulled up footage, and they were like, I know that boy. And then her friends were like, that's Yoren, Deepak, and Satish. Those are the guys that she left with. And it was some kind of night manager, security guard manager, that was able to pull up the tape of them leaving the casino to go to Carlos and Charlie's. So since people were able to identify him, Natalee's mother, Beth, Jug, and their friends, they went to the police and explained to them what happened and said, as far as we know, these are the last people that she is with and seen with. Once they tell the authorities this, they're like, all right, let's go to his house and talk to him, question him, and see if he knows where she went, if maybe she's still with him. Like, let's figure this out. So when they got there, they were pretty much instantly suspicious. Yoren, when the police knocked on the door, instead of answering it, he behind the door goes, who is it? What do you want? He sounded very sketched out, and you know, they were like, it's the police. We were told that you were the last person with this missing person. We just want to ask you some questions. And he was like, okay, so he let him in. They were like, do you know this girl? Have you seen her? And he was like, I know of her. I didn't remember her name though. That's her name. And that's like all he was able to get out. And then Deepak came in the room. And he goes, no, you don't remember? She was at the club with us. And she wanted to go see the sharks. Remember? Like that's how he was, remember? That's so suspicious. Why would you do that? Then Yoren was like, oh yeah, we dropped her off at 2. So he claims, he's like, oh yeah, I know of this chick. And then now he's like, yeah, we were clubbing at the beach, we dropped her off. How do you go from I know of her, but I don't even know her name, to spending all this time with her and remembering everything? Like, I'm not good at math, but it's not adding up. It's not adding up. Yoren, Deepak, it's not. And then Yoren says, yeah, I remember driving away. Oh yeah, I remember. She fell out of the car, but she wouldn't let me help her up. So we drove away, and as we were driving away, I saw someone come up to her and help her into the hotel. It was a security guard. And so they were like, okay, if we took you there and showed you all the security guards, could you point out which one it was? And he's like, oh yeah. Meanwhile, luckily, the police were like, Natalee's family, they were like, this is suspicious, this is weird. So they go back and they're looking at the security guards, and he can't point one out. None of them. It was none of them. They're like, well, these are all the people that were working last night. He was like, that was none of them. So again, weird. Then they go back and look on the tapes, and they said, hey, your car isn't showing up, like, at 2. You weren't here. That's weird. That's weird. Like, immediately, missing posters are being put up. Then a search and rescue is in order. At first, there were hundreds of people between the United States and Aruba that were helping search for Natalee. Like, it was all hands on deck for this situation. They were like, we are going to find her and bring her back. They were ready. They were locked, loaded, and ready. They were. Now, during the first few days of the search, the Aruban government gave thousands of civil servants, I think it may have been a day, but I want to say it was a couple days off, so that they could help in the search for Natalee. So there were thousands of just, random civilians helping search for her. This island was covered in searches for her. Then they had 50 Dutch Marines search the shorelines in the seas of the entire island just to see if they could find at least her body there. Because, the beach is one of the last places that anyone saw her or is claiming that they saw her. So they want to check there and make sure. Especially since some stories aren't lining up. Natalee's mom, Beth, and stepfather, Jug, put up a $175,000 reward for her safe return. They also raised an extra $50,000 from people who followed the case and donated. They were trying to help. At this point, there was a lot of media attention. I'm not good with words. I'm good with words, but I'm not good at pronouncing words. So I'm gonna mess up a lot. But it's okay, it'll be funny. And I'll laugh at me. I'll laugh at me with you. At this point, there was a lot of media attention on this case, covering this case everywhere. There were posters, there were flyers, there were news reports. It was everywhere. You couldn't not see it. This also sparked a lot of criticism because people were saying that people of other races and ethnicities never get this much attention and would never. That she was getting this attention because she was white, blonde, blue-eyed, pretty, family had money, and that's not untrue. It's the truth. I'm not saying that people like Natalee should get less attention. I'm just saying that everyone else should get more. Like what unsolved shows do. They put out all the information that they can, and that usually leads to people being like, oh, even though this was a small part of the case, like that person went by this gas station that day, someone could have seen them there. Someone could have been there and been like, oh my gosh, I saw them and they got in this car. And that could lead to finding them, finding their remains, whatever. It would just be so helpful. So I think it's true, and it is very important to get more information out there. I say as this is my first case that I'm covering. I know. Don't come at me. Moving forward, May 5th, 2005, two security guards that worked at the Marriott Hotel not far away were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and murder when it came to the Natalee Holloway case. At the time, the police did not release what was making them so suspicious about these two men, but an officer made a statement saying that these men liked to go around trying to get cigarettes from people at hotels and also like to hit on women. So they thought that they had involvement because of that. It's kind of a pretty loose reasoning to me. As far as I found everywhere I looked, I couldn't see anything about them being abusive towards women or being hostile towards women. I couldn't find anything on my own in the media, anything like that gave that impression. So anyway, these men were Nick John, he was 30, and Abraham Jones, who was 28. Abraham Jones, he actually had a solid alibi. But in Aruba, the law is a little bit different. You don't have to have any evidence to be arrested. They can arrest whoever they want on suspicion alone. Even if it's suspicion that has absolutely no base, like they can arrest anyone. Now, to keep them, yeah, you need evidence. But for that, yeah. So Abraham's wife actually makes statements to the media and says he was at home. He was actually sick at the time this happened. He was at home in bed the whole time. He was sick. He was down for the count. There's no way that he could have killed a woman and hid her body. There's no way. So they did end up getting released. Not immediately, not when an alibi was given. 8 days later, they were released. That's kind of a while. That's kind of a while. No charges on them, and actually, I think that they were kind of just like, it's definitely not them. And I think they kind of just put that to the side and they were like, okay, we're done with them in this investigation. Like, they're out. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. Okay, so June 9th of 2005, Yorin, Deepak, and Satish were arrested for suspicion of murder and kidnapping in relation to the Natalee Holloway case. And the police were kind of weary about them from the beginning. Like, I think that they always thought it was them for the whole couple days it's been happening. But you know what I mean? Their first interaction with him, he lied, and they knew that, and they were like, that's suspicious, but we don't have anything. We don't have any evidence right now. So there wasn't really anything they could do. Then they were like, yeah, you lied on the videotape. We have evidence that your stories that you're giving us, your multiple stories, none of them match up with what you're telling us. So they were actually suspicious enough in them lying and like having that confession of saying, we dropped her off then, and then having that video where she's clearly not getting dropped off at that time. The police were like, yeah, no. So they got approved to do surveillance over their phones. So they tapped their phones. Then they also tapped their emails. So they were tracking their phone calls and their emails, and eventually nothing came of it. So I think they just let go of that and just continued. Now, June 11th, 2005 comes around. And let me tell you, oof. A spokesperson for the Aruban Minister of Justice goes to the media and says, Natalee's body was found. She is confirmed dead, and the police know what happened. Now, not long after that, they come right back on, and they say, haha, JK, just kidding. Yeah. They claim they were part of a misinformation campaign. I don't know what that means. Like, why wouldn't you contact people and look into this more before putting it out for the world to see, putting it out for the news? Like, I don't know. I thought that was really disrespectful to the family and friends of Natalee. Like, that's really getting people's hopes up. That's kind of messed up to me. So later on this same day, the lead investigator, or one of the lead investigators on the case, he comes out and says that someone admitted that something bad had happened to Natalee after she was taken to the beach, and that they were being led to where that happened. Now, the media was eating this up. Like, they actually came back on and they were like, it's a crucial point in our investigation, and we can't really say much. Like, we need to lay low, We can't say much. Why even say that yet? I get it. Like, people want answers. But man, getting people's hopes up a lot is just, especially right after the same day as a misinformation campaign. Did you even check to know if it's true? Did you? I don't think you did. Then on June 17th, Stephen Gregory Crows, he is a party boat DJ. He's arrested in relation to Natalee's disappearance as well. He was arrested because another inmate claimed that he had something to do with Natalee's disappearance. I think that person just wanted him in jail, to be completely honest. It's not funny, but it's just like, what does this guy have to do with anything, Then 5 days later, June 22nd, Yoren's father, Paulus, is arrested. They think that he helped Joran in the disposal of Natalee's body, so they arrest him as well. Jumping to June 26th, both Paulus and Cruz, the party boat DJ, they are both released. So police, they kind of stick with Joran, Deepak, and Satish. They're like, okay, yes, like these are the guys, we need to get them to say something. So they keep questioning them. They just keep questioning them. They continue answering questions, but their stories keep changing. Shocker. You know, after they already lied, it's so shocking that they're lying more. Who'd have thought? All three said that Joran and Natalee were dropped off at the beach near the Marriott Hotel. Now, Joran is changing his story from he dropped her off at the hotel to he left her on the beach. Those are two very different stories. Changing it again. I think that's like the third time he's changed it so far, and like this just freaking started. This is his third time changing it. Satish's attorney actually said that Joran called Deepak when he was on his way home, and then 40 minutes later when he got home, he texted him. Joran then changes his story again, and he says that he was actually dropped off at home, and that Deepak and Satish, they took Natalee. And he doesn't know what they did. He doesn't know what they did after that. Now, I just want to say, Joran didn't start changing his story more until Deepak and Satish started pointing their fingers towards him. You know, they very clearly started pointing their fingers towards him. I'm assuming that their lawyers told him to do that. Like, if you really didn't have anything to do with it, like, remove yourself from the situation, you know? Now, the deputy chief, he immediately discounted this story. He said there's absolutely no way that a little white girl from the South in North America is going to get in a vehicle with two brown boys she doesn't know. So everyone was like, yeah, there's no way. There's no way that that would have happened. Now, following hearings by the judge, the Calpo brothers were released on July 4th of 2005. They chose to keep Joran for an extra 60 days. Yeah. On July 4th, same day, Royal Netherlands Air Force, they gave 3 F-16 aircrafts to Aruba so that they could search that way as well, and that search came up with nothing, unfortunately. July 5th, the day after Deepak and Satish were let out of jail, Natalee's mother, Beth, goes and speaks at a press conference that is televised. A lot of people are there listening, and she gets really harsh about the Aruban government and police force letting Deepak and Satish go, and she starts saying how like she knew that they were a part of it and they hurt her daughter, and making it out like they weren't doing their jobs, and it was kind of just like ragging on all of their citizens, and everyone kind of started turning against her a little bit. They felt like she was being unjustified and really hostile. After a couple months and absolutely no answers, the rewards were then changed from $250,000 to $1 million. And then any information leading to her remains was upped from 100,000 to 250,000. So it was significant. The Calpo brothers were then arrested for another crime with one of their friends. His name was Freddie. They were involved with taking pictures of and having physical contact that was not okay with an underage girl. But people were being very critical of this because nothing was done about it when it actually happened. It had actually happened before all this stuff with Natalee. People were like, you're doing that so that you can get them and question them more for Natalee's case. You're not doing this for that. So people were like, what the heck? On September 3rd, 2005, all 4 of the boys were released. So that's Joran, Deepak, Satish, and their friend Freddie. They're all released. Now, they are released under the condition that they have to stay available to the police at any point in time. They have to know where they're going to be. You know, they can't just leave the country, whatever. Like, they had little specific rules that they had to follow. Then on September 14th, all of those restrictions were lifted. Now, simultaneously, while they were being detained and questioned, that's when the rewards were upped times 4. And that's also when all these tips started coming in. I'm going to only go into 2. The jogger claimed to be seeing a group of men burying a blonde woman in a landfill the night that Natalee went missing. I'm sorry, I laughed because why did he not tell them immediately? Why did he wait? Well, he waited until it was up to $1 million. Was he going to say anything? Or did he just want the money? Like, what is happening? So even though they already searched the landfills, they kind of went all out. They searched them all again many times, and they even brought the cadaver dogs, the abracadabra dogs. They even brought the abracadabra dogs out, and they found absolutely nothing. It still boggles my mind that he waited to tell them. Like, what is that? I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So then, the gardener. This one actually makes a little more sense. The gardener makes more sense. TBH. He said that there was a pond, which was near the Marriott Hotel, also near the Racket Club in Aruba. Urine was seen trying to cover his face driving by at 2:30 to 3 in the morning. That was from the beach, basically, I guess. And another thing was that the pond in that area by the Marriott Hotel was halfway drained, and then it was filled up the next morning. So I think the gardener was getting at they could have put the body in there and weighted it down, and no one would know. It's not going to be drained for a long time again. So I think that's where the gardener was going with that. But since those 2 men also worked there, Abraham and Nick at the beginning, the first people that were getting arrested for it, I think that's why they were arrested. So I think maybe they already knew, yeah, that could have happened. But the other one, I'm like, why would you wait that long to tell that? Why would you do that? That just boggles my mind. People are insane. So Natalee's mother finally decides to return home. When she got home, she was like, you know what? I want to keep this going. So it was said that she was going on about 12 interviews a day. That's insane. I don't know how true that is. Multiple sources said that, but in 2005, this one is really messed up. In 2005, Dr. Phil says that he has a video of the Calpo brothers admitting that they had sex with Natalee the night that she went missing. He tells her that, and he's like, come on my show and I'll play it for the whole world to hear. That's her daughter. That's her daughter. Talking about men having sex with her. That is messed up. Her missing teenage daughter. Dr. Phil, what is wrong with you? Jeez. So anyway, she goes on Dr. Phil. They play it. She's clearly very upset, as anyone would be. And there are a lot of angry people after this. The people in Aruba, just people in general, they were like, why are you not arresting them? This is a confession. Why are you not arresting them? Well, it turns out the police had this tape. Dr. Phil edited it to make it sound awful like that. They did not actually admit to that or say that. He edited out to make those words back to back so it sounded like they were saying that, and then played it for her mom, for the entire world to see her mom's reaction hearing that. Yeah. So then the Calpo brothers started a lawsuit against Dr. Phil. Now, I don't know what happened with that. It was quieted very quickly. So what I think is Dr. Phil's attorneys or whatever, insurance, I don't know, paid them off. I really do think that because, yeah, that's messed up. That's messed up. They didn't say those things, but he edited them to like they did. That has to be illegal somehow. So then Natalee's mom, Beth, does an interview with Fox News. Beth and the interviewer go to Paulus Vandersloot, which is Joran's dad's house. They don't have a video camera, but they do bring like a voice recorder, and they go and interview him. And they actually both said that, like, they have never seen someone so nervous in their life. They have never seen someone so, like, terrified. They said he was, like, dripping, like, pouring sweat. He was fidgety. Like, it. They said they've never seen such suspicion ever. It was so extreme. So Natalee's mom, Beth, she was very suspicious after that. She's like, he helped. He had something to do with it. He's covering it. He's doing something. Like, something is not right. So after Joran's latest release, he starts doing interviews because he wants to tell his side of the story. His biggest story, also, Fox News. So in his Fox News interview, he says that Natalee was trying to get with him, but he turned her down. And then he said that she was trying to get him to stay the night on the beach with her, but he said, no, I need to go to school tomorrow, so I need to go. And he left her on the beach by herself. More differences in the stories. Like, he said that around 3, he then called the Calpo brothers to pick him up. He tried to get Natalee to take her home, but she insisted on staying, and there's just nothing that he could do about that. So the interviewer actually asked him on live TV, why do you keep changing your stories? Why are you doing that? Why is this story different? He said that the reason why he was telling different stories in the beginning is because he was embarrassed that he left a lady on the beach by herself in the middle of the night. And that wasn't the gentlemanly thing to do. So he was just embarrassed. He said that he was sure that this was a fluke and she was gonna turn up soon. Like, she was probably just out doing whatever, out on the beach. Yeah. Now, he said that the reason why he was doing the interviews and giving this information is because he felt like the media was ruining his life. Everyone was after him, everyone was blaming him, and he was like, with what proof? With what proof? What do you have? Nothing. So up to April 2006, the authorities are still searching for Natalee. They make a public announcement saying that they still haven't found anything, and they have used up to 40% of their resources on this case, and they're running out of funds. So they said that specifically the police commissioner, the Reuben police commissioner, said, what I think happened, I'm laughing because what the heck, it's not funny, but it's just like the things in this case that people come up with, what, is everyone insane? I don't understand. Anyway, the Aruban police commissioner, he says, I think that Natalee died on the beach of alcohol and or drug poisoning. And I think a passerby, instead of calling 911 or getting help, they decided to take her body and bury it. Why would someone implicate themselves into a death that they did not commit? Like, they didn't commit the murder, you know what I mean? Like, that would automatically implement you? I think that's the word. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say, though. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. That makes no sense to me. So, whatever. The Aruban people actually started agreeing, and they were like, yeah, that's probably what happened. I think that's what happened. Yeah, it makes so much sense. Where? What's crazy to me is they made this statement, like, knowing that Yohan, Deepak, and Satish were the last people to see her, and they had lied about their stories many times. So how is that not playing in his mind of, like, something's wrong here? Why would they lie if they didn't have anything to do with it? Or at least know. Then, April 27th of 2007, 20 Aruban police go and pretty much swarm Paulus Vandersloot's home, which is Joran's father. They are digging up in the yards to try and see if Natalee's remains are there. They are going through all of their stuff in their home, and they end up taking Paulus's daily planner and his computer. Then, not long after that, They do the same thing to Deepak and Satish's home, and they actually did not take anything. They didn't think that anything was suspicious. Now, taking Paulus's daily planner and his computer, it led them to absolutely nothing, unfortunately. In November of 2007, the three men were arrested again on suspicion of kidnapping and murder in the case of Natalee Holloway's disappearance. They got released pretty quickly this time. Now, on December 18th of 2007, the case was officially closed. They had no evidence. They didn't have anyone to charge anything with. There was just absolutely nothing, so they closed it. Natalee's father was not having that. So he hired private investigator Tim Miller to do some investigating of his own. He then goes to Aruba and just searches the landfills himself. He was then approached by a police chief that said, look in the ocean 3 to 5 miles in. Yeah, a police officer came to him and said that. Like, why didn't you do that? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't you do that? Tim learns that that same day that Natalee went missing, a fish trap box thing went missing from a local fisherman. And I'm pretty sure from everything that I read, a human could fit in that. It looked pretty big. But that was information that was not made public for some reason. I don't know. Maybe that's something the police were still looking into, but I mean, they closed the case. So I guess they weren't looking into it too hard. So Tim really gets into it. He starts calculating. He's like, let's see how far I need to go out for the currents. Like, these many days times how fast this current is, that's where I need to go. So he goes out there, and with his sonar images, he finds one of those fish trap things, and he sees what to him looks like a human skull. So he calls Dave before he does anything, which is Natalee's father, and he says, hey, we have something, just be prepared. They get divers to go in and get this fish trap, and there were no human remains in it. This random Dutch crime reporter, he says, hey, I have a confession tape from Joran that I'm going to play on live TV on like a tell-all on December 3rd. This all goes live, and Joran is in the car with an ex-convict named Patrick. I want to say the two worked together and they had gotten pretty close, and Joran had gotten like a trust for Patrick, allegedly. Patrick, knowing who Joran is and, you know, the stuff surrounding him, he started putting cameras in his car and recording. In the video, Joran claims that him and Natalee had sex and she just randomly went unresponsive right after. So he called a friend. And he asked this friend, hey, I don't know what to do. And the friend allegedly said, go home, I'll take care of it. I got this. I got you, bro. Joran specifically did not say who this person is. So then after that, everyone was like, arrest him, arrest him, arrest him. Aruban authorities specifically had to say, this is not enough evidence. And it's not, because we questioned Joran about this, actually. We already questioned him, and he said they were both high, and Patrick asked Joran about this stuff a lot. You could tell that he was trying to get him to talk about it, probably so he can get him in trouble. He was like, we were high, and I was just trying to say whatever I could say to appease him. I was just trying to give him what he wanted to hear. It wasn't real. I just wanted him to stop asking me questions, so I just told him a crazy story. That was all that was. How many times this man has confessed and then is like, LOL, JK, is ridiculous. So then, out of nowhere, Joran claims that the authorities knew what happened the entire time and that his father paid them to shut them up so that they would not say anything. Joran then claims that there is a tape of him talking to his father about how he sold Natalee into sex slavery, and that it has all the evidence they need. I'm laughing because what it is so stupid. It's so stupid. It's him pretending to be his dad, But he's not masking his voice. Like, it's literally, it sounds like him talking to him. It sounds like him talking to himself, having a conversation with himself. He doesn't even try. He doesn't even put the effort in. Like, who, the audacity, first of all, the audacity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why? What was even the point of that? Like, to throw them off? I don't know. It gets even more rough. So, March 29th, 2010 rolls by. And Yoren emails Beth's attorney and says, if you give me $250,000, I will tell you what happened to Natalee and I will take you to her remains. So they talk about it and they're like, okay, how about this? We'll wire transfer you 15,000, and then when we meet with you in person, we'll hand you 10,000 in cash. He was like, okay. So wire the money. They go to Aruba. He takes the attorney to the beach and says, this is where her remains are. This is what happened to her. What he claims is that they went to the beach. He picked her up and they were all like, ha 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 ha, joking around. And she was like, oh, put me down. And instead of putting her down, he threw her at a large rock. Who does that? Then he claims that his father took her body and hid it under where a home was being built. So the home was built on top of her body. So this is where this really makes me mad. Everything goes through, everything's done. Right after that urine, he freaking emails the lawyer. LOL, JK, none of that was true. Extortion is what you call that. Extortion. JK, I didn't mean any of it. None of it was true. I just wanted the money. Yeah. Now, what Yoren didn't know was that Beth and the lawyers were multiple steps ahead of him. And actually, the FBI knew. The FBI was in on it. The FBI helped them. So they were tracking all of it, and they got him for extortion. And, I mean, it's his own fault. That's what he wanted. So they did it. They did it. Now he was officially wanted for extortion and wire fraud in the United States. So even though he wasn't wanted for her murder specifically, he was wanted for wire fraud and extortion in relevance to her case. So it's something. But he needed to be extradited to the United States. But before they could get to him, he flees to Peru. He takes that $25,000, he goes to Peru. He flees. Time goes by, and in comes Stephanie Flores Ramirez. She was a 21-year-old business student, and she was actually the daughter of a presidential candidate in Peru. She goes missing. Jorin goes to that area, and then suddenly another girl goes missing. Interesting, weird. On May 30th, 2010, Stephanie was shown in videos winning over $10,000. Like, lucky, go her. That's a bad bitch right there. If I ever saw one. I guess it's very common for people to pay attention to who's winning money. Like, not just the casino itself, but just people who go to casinos. I'm assuming maybe like it's a gold digger thing, or like people want to rob people or steal. I don't know. I don't know why people would pay attention to that, but apparently it's a thing. They do. So of course, I think Yoren does. Stephanie was shown entering the casino by herself, and she went to the poker table that Yoren was at. They somehow got to talking, clicked, and decided to go to Yoren's hotel room. Video surveillance shows them entering the hotel at approximately 5 a.m. on May 30th. At about 8:10, Yoren was seen leaving the hotel, going to a market nearby to get bread and 2 coffees for them. At approximately 8:45 a.m., he is seen leaving his room again with all of his luggage. So workers go up to the room and they find Stephanie Flores Ramirez dead. Now, they realize, it's Joran Vandersloot's room. He has it in his real name. and she's murdered. So he claims what happened is she was using his laptop without his permission, and he just lost it. He just snapped. And they got into an argument, and when she tried to escape, he grabbed her by the neck and then just beat her to death. So then a little bit later, he says that he was actually on amphetamines when he did this, but one, his toxicology report said that he wasn't. There is leniency in Peru when you commit a felony under the influence of hard drugs, basically. I thought it was like that everywhere. It's not. Even though he claimed that, the Peruvian authorities, after learning, who he was, everything that he's wanted for, blah, 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 they were like, he wanted to take her money. He knew that she was winning and he wanted to take her money. So he took her out. He took her money. He took $10,000 that she won. He took $1,000, which was in her car. He took all of her belongings that were worth money, like her jewelry. He had her ID. Authorities said that when they did check his computer, from the time frame that she was there and alive, the only 2 searches on his computer were of gambling websites. So she wasn't doing anything suspicious. She wasn't doing anything suspicious at all. She likes to gamble. She was looking at gambling sites. Then authorities also said that before on his computer, more things about Natalee Holloway were searched. Then, in the time after she was murdered, he was searching things like countries that don't expedite to Peru or the United States. How to get to Chile, or Chile, however you say it. Can I take a bus to Chile? Do I need my passport to go there? In her car, they also found rohypnol. I hope I'm saying that right. It's the drug that people put in drinks when they shouldn't. That one. They found that in her car. They also found it in her system, in her toxicology report, but they were not able to prove whether she took that on her own, like willingly, unknowingly, forcefully. They couldn't tell. So they weren't able to rule that as something that he did. He says he never said any of that stuff. That confession wasn't real. It didn't really happen, and authorities made it up and then made him sign saying that it was real and he didn't even know what it said. Then, right after that, he said that another gambler actually lured him to Peru, and that's why he came to Peru. He was lured there. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I am. And that Stephanie's blood on him was actually put on him. Like, it was all planted. All of that stuff was planted to be him. They made it look like on the surveillance cameras that it was him coming out of his room. I was like, come on. Are you on amphetamines now? Like, on January 11th, 2012, he pled guilty to Stephanie's murder. He got 28 years in prison. He also had to pay the Flores Ramirez family $75,000. I am going to skip this a little bit to a later time. Joran got an extra 18 years added to his sentence for trafficking drugs. So he got 18 more years added to his sentence. I was like, as of right now, he won't get out until 2045. Amazing. June 8th, 2023. June 8th, 2023. That was when he was extradited to America to face his extortion and wire fraud charges. Now, at first, he was going to plead not guilty to both, which, like, the FBI tracked the whole thing. Like, that's not going to work out in your favor. It's just not. He ended up taking a plea deal for this. The family agreed that if he made a confession while hooked up to a lie detector test of what really happened with Natalee, that they would be comfortable with him doing his time for this case concurrently rather than consecutively to his 28 years plus 18 years for his other crimes. And he agreed to that. With that being said, Beth and Dave sat in another room with the audio and video while Joran was in the room with the person that does the lie detector test and the person that asks you questions. I don't know if that's the same person or if they're different people or what, but he told what happened during it. He said that they went to the beach and he was trying to feel Natalee up while they were kissing, and she got uncomfortable and pushed him away, and she got more comfortable again, so they started kissing again, and then he tried to feel her up again, and he wouldn't stop. Like, he was being kind of forceful about it, so she kneed him in the groin, and that made him mad, and he beat her to death after that. After he beat her to death, he went all the way out into the ocean, like up to here. Like, it was pretty far into the ocean, and just pushed her body, and the currents took her, and he got out of the ocean and he walked home. And that's what happened. Afterwards, they determined that he was being truthful during the whole thing. Now I know that nowadays people are able to work the way around them and they don't feel like they're very accurate anymore. So even though that is a thing, the parents took this. They said, we believe that that is what happened. We believe that's what happened to our daughter. Like, we have peace with this. I don't know if I believe it, to be completely honest with you. I get he took a lie detector. It's over. It doesn't really matter. But, like, he's just lied so much, and honestly, he probably believes his own lies at this point. He probably does. So yeah, there are a couple things that I want to mention at the end. I kept these at the end even though they happen more towards the middle. I wanted to keep these towards the end because I felt like it was important to have that information in your head directly after. Beth created a nonprofit organization called International Safe Travels Foundation. It helps inform the public on different things that you can do to be safe while you're traveling internationally, and it's allegedly helped a lot of people. So if you are traveling overseas and maybe you haven't before, or you have and you're like, I kind of just went for it, I didn't look too far into things, like, make sure that you take a look and see what they have to offer. Beth also started the Natalee Holloway Resource Center, which aids families of missing people. That started in Washington, D.C. So, also, if you have, a missing persons case, whatever, that would be something to check out. I think that having these resources is really important, which is why I wanted to keep them at the end. Thank you for coming to my show, Bows and Butchers. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have a case that you would like me to cover and talk about. And have a good rest of your week, guys.